My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all. Ooh, I'm so excited about this video, the long-awaited video about how I spent my budget in September. It was such an interesting month, definitely the most interesting one so far of the whole year, IMHO, and a defining moment in my year of budgeting. But before we get into the meat of the video, Home Chef is once again sponsoring me at the beginning of this video to tell you about their new Fresh and Easy meal plan. So I've learned that Fresh and Easy is a new line of meals that Home Chef is offering through their meal kit delivery service. So Fresh and Easy includes oven-ready meals, which are the ones that I'm all about, grill-ready meals, and entree salads. And my offer is still the same, or the code that Home Chef has given me to give to you is still the same. It's a code for 20% off of each of your first 4 boxes, so that will be linked down below. All of that still applies. The cool thing about Fresh and Easy is that it's making it even easier to build a Home Chef box on a weekly basis that will shorten the time that it takes for you to cook your meals. And I ordered some of the oven-ready ones last time I got a box, and they aren't joking. It takes a very, very short time to prep it. And then depending on which one you order, it can take a shorter or longer time to cook in the oven. But for me, it's just all about the shortening of how much time I'm actually spending in the kitchen. Because a lot of times I rush home from work, I start prepping our food, and then if I can like pop it in the oven and leave it in there for 30 minutes, then I can work while it's cooking. And the Fresh and Easy meals are all designed to minimize mess as much as possible. So there's been little or no cleanup every time we've cooked one of those meals. So I'm glad to be able to tell you about this new kind of meal that's available on Home Chef. I'm really grateful to Home Chef for sponsoring some of my videos over the past couple of months. It goes a long way towards supporting my channel, and the fact that they're willing to sponsor me for a series of videos means they really believe in my channel. So that means a lot to me. A huge thank you to Home Chef. And now I'm going to tell you what I spent my budget on in September. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, are you ready? This is it, you guys, the big one. This was the month that I really went for it with fewer, nicer things. My original plan was to be very dramatic and only buy the one thing this month. But then at the very beginning of the month, I went on a trip to Washington, D.C. in North Carolina. I vlogged about it. I hope you've seen the vlog because it was pretty good, if I do say so myself. I hadn't exactly planned to go consignment shopping when I was in D.C., but it turned out that I had a couple of hours to kill on a day when my sister and her boyfriend were both working right before I flew home on the last day. And so I hit up my favorite designer consignment shop in DC, and one of my favorite ones in the country. It's called Secundi. And I showed myself going to the store and trying on a bunch of stuff in the vlog, and I showed you the piece they ended up buying in the vlog. So if you watch the vlog, then you will know that I ended up purchasing this sweater from Theory. By the way, I meant to say right at the beginning of the meat of the video that I filmed this makeup look, but I didn't film it for my channel. I filmed it for the Persona Cosmetics YouTube channel, which is super cool. They asked me if I wanted to do like a little takeover of their channel, just in case you were wondering. That's gonna be there, and I wanted to tell you guys that I got to do that because it's cool. Oh gosh, I didn't even tell you the stuff that I'm supposed to tell you at the beginning of this video. I'm a right mess today. So I went into September, just jumped right in. I went into September with a starting budget of $307. I think towards the middle of August, when I had spent about half my budget, I started to realize that I wanted to find like a beautiful investment piece to spend a bunch of budget on, and I kind of started shopping around for it already. Not this, but the other thing that I bought mid-August. And I realized that I wanted to have more flexibility than just the $200 of my September budget. So I basically started a tacit no buy halfway through August to preserve that last $100 so that I would have $300 going into September, and I would have wiggle room in terms of which editorial blouse I decided to buy with my budget. So I went into this month with $307.85. I had already kind of picked out the expensive piece that I wanted, so I knew that I had something in the realm of like $70 or $80 that would be left over after I purchased it. So when I was in Secundi, I was there with the knowledge that that was about how much I had to work with. And the thing, now I'm picking up where I left off before I went back and gave you all that background information. The thing that it occurs to me to say about this is that I quite like this. I think the reason that it works well for me practically is that it has the long sleeves, so it gives me that feeling of coziness and coverage, but it's open weave, like it's totally sheer. And that is good for me because sometimes I get overheated and I'm a very sweaty person and I sweat a lot and I sweat into my clothes. It's part of why I like loose oversized things, because they don't get like huge sweat stains on them because they're not pressed right up into my armpits. So this has that. It's got that loose oversized cut. So it's not like skin tight on me, and I like that look and I also like that feeling, but also the fact that it's open weave and it's mostly cotton. I think the rest of it is polyamide or something like that, but I feel like that's good because it will keep it from bagging out, which sometimes like an open weave, all natural fiber piece can. So I don't mind a little bit of man-made fibers mixed in with a cotton in a piece like this because it'll help it retain its shape. But you know, it's majority cotton, so it's not going to feel plasticky. It's got all of those qualities. It's got that breathable loose weave. And then there's the other thing about the loose weave, which is that it's kind of sexy. So I love being able to have something that's oversized. This is actually going to be a theme today, a 2-item theme. Something that's loose and oversized, but sheer or semi-sheer or not totally solid, like it has holes in it or it's open weave like this. I can wear a cute bralette under this, like a, I don't know, like a sporty black bralette under this cream colored thing. And it's got enough coverage that it's not totally scandalous. Like it's something that I could wear out and about, and I definitely wouldn't feel even like I was sexing it up at all with my outfit. But I don't feel like I'm just shrouded and covered in fabric and like not trying to show myself. I still feel like I can, with a wink, display that I'm feeling myself a little bit. And there's that sensuality, that like effortless sensuality to something that has a lot of fabric and a lot of coverage but is semi-sheer. I'm really glad that I bought this, but it's not distinctive enough. It's not something that I would have coveted enough that I would have bought it online. Meaning, like, if I had the entire shopping world at my fingertips, if I had like every website, every consignment shop that's online, resale shops, sales, all of that, and I was looking for like the shining gem for $40, I probably wouldn't have picked this because it, even though it checks all of those boxes, it's not then checking like another box of like being truly extraordinary. And at this point, with my somewhat minimal wardrobe where I wear the same thing over and over again, usually things have to check that other box as well for me. So part of why I got this was because of the experience. I'm not sorry that I have it. I'm not trying to say that. I just thought it was worth pointing out that I feel like there's a difference between obsessively shopping around until you find the perfect thing on which to spend X amount of money and feel perfect about it in every way, which I did for the second item that I bought this month. So I'm not against that. That's something that I sometimes do. But there's a difference between that and shopping once in a while for fun and happening to stumble across something that's perfect for you, even though you didn't necessarily feel like you desperately needed it or feel like it made your heart leap out of your chest and your head explode or something like that. And I like the experience. I've talked about this before a little bit, like casually buying something and having it be not angsty and not dramatic and not really like push those old shopping buttons, but having it be something that's a little bit less effortful for me, and how that's new and something I cherish because I feel like it's something that I earned with my no-buy year and with my budget. So this was that. This is a perfect example of that. It was definitely sort of a casual, off-the-cuff, unplanned, and in some ways extra purchase. I would even argue that this was more extra than the extremely extra other garment that I purchased because I have more casual clothing than I do dramatic editorial clothing. And that's why I zeroed in on this other garment to spend almost all of the rest of my budget on. Let's move on to talking about said other garment. Here it is. Most of you guys have seen this. Probably all of you have seen this already because I wore it in my video about new makeup releases a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people watched that video. So you probably already saw me wearing this. It is by the designer Ulla Johnson. It's called the Cassie blouse, 2A's SI, so CAASI. And I know that she does make this exact blouse in multiple fabrics over the course of multiple seasons. So this one's no longer available. This was like a special edition with this cotton eyelet lace from some seasons ago, but I believe there's currently one for sale in the Ulla Johnson online shop, like the current version of the Cassie blouse that's just in a different kind of fabric. It's like a cotton lawn or something with like a paisley print on it, and I'll link that down below. But you know, I feel like secondhand is the way to go for things like this. I mean, for me, I can only really speak for myself, but when it comes to the fact that I only have my budget to spend and that I really love designer pieces, I love pieces that have flair. And for me, it's not about it being brand new off the runway. It's about it having the kind of panache and style that I love. So I don't feel attached to something being like of the moment when it comes to fashion. I feel like if it's well chosen, it's timeless. I want everything in my wardrobe to be like that. So secondhand shopping for this kind of thing works really well for me. So it's got kind of a boxy straight silhouette, which I love. It comes down to about hip length on me, maybe a little bit below hip length. And it's got these huge round puff sleeves with huge ruffles on top of the sleeves on the shoulders. And then it fastens at the back with a little button on a little elastic. And it's got a pretty high round neckline. The fabric is 100% cotton, which is really important to me when investing in a piece that cost as much as this cost me, even on the secondhand market. You know, I think I need to change my battery. The battery light is blinking, and I'm going to have to throw an ad break into this video at some point, so let's do it now. We'll have the ad break, I'll change my battery, and when we get back, I'm going to talk about the entire list of check marks that this had to check, like all of the boxes that this had to check to be worth the amount that I spent on it. Okay, we're back from the ad break. I changed my battery and I realized that I didn't even tell you how much I spent on this, although I did mention it, I think, in some other videos. I found it on Poshmark for $250, but on Poshmark you can make offers. So I expected that the seller didn't expect to get the full $250 for it, but maybe somewhere between $200 and $250. But I decided to keep looking around. So I was Googling and I found it also on eBay. And then I realized that it was the same seller. So I wrote to her on eBay and I basically just asked her which platform she would prefer for me to use to purchase this. And I asked her if she would be willing to compromise on the price a little bit. So we went back and forth and settled on $230. I would have liked it to be more like $210 or $215, but by that time my heart was really set on it, and she said that she couldn't go below $230, and I was like, it's fine. I mean, in situations like this, I just tend to think like, you can have it. Like, you can have that extra $15. I love buying from individual sellers, from individual people. I feel so much less of like a hard ass about saving money and like cutting corners when I'm buying something secondhand than I do when I'm buying it from a corporation. Because who knows who this person is who I purchased it from? Like, she needs money to buy her groceries, to pay her student loans, to buy beautiful things for herself. And I'm so happy with the thing that I selected, and I'm so glad that she's willing to part with it, that those $15, the extra $20, like it's really no skin off my nose. So I wasn't like trying to drive a super hard bargain, but I was glad that she was willing to go below $250, because that's quite a bite. So that's what I did. I purchased it from an independent seller through eBay. What I did was I thought about the garments that I was able to rent from Rent the Runway during the month of January. I had a 1-month subscription to Rent the Runway during the month of January. And I thought about how being able to rent something that had some strange flair, like a sequin top with like really sharp shoulder pads, or that insane Marni blouse with all of the different textures, or that fluffy teddy bear pink coat with the black stars all over it. The fact that they were rentals made me go outside of the box of my usual constraints of fashion a little bit, because it wasn't permanent, I wasn't paying for it, and I just felt like I was able to inject some serious editorial flair into my presence on this channel and on Instagram and all of the events that I went to in January, because I was renting those gorgeous and strange pieces of clothing from Rent the Runway. And then I thought, well, what is keeping me from buying pieces like that? What's keeping me from spending some of my budget on pieces that have that same kind of flair? And I thought, well, it really has to do with the fact that in order to find a really well-made quality piece of clothing that has that intense editorial flair, you're usually talking about a higher price tag, right? I don't really fancy shopping at fast fashion shops anymore. I'm not like boycotting them officially, but I just haven't been able to bring myself to do that at all this year. And it's harder to find a piece like this secondhand from a shop like that that has held up over time. So you can buy something sort of editorial and dramatic from Zara brand new, and it'll be good for a couple of wears. But when you start searching the secondhand market, those dramatic editorial things tend to be not in the best of shape if they came from a fast fashion store. They just don't, the stitching isn't as good, the fabrics aren't as good, the quality just isn't as high. So I don't want to buy fast fashion. I can't afford to buy really beautifully made editorial things new. So there's this perfect little overlap between very high quality manufacturing and prices that I can afford that happens in the secondhand market for designer pieces. So really, cost is the thing that has been prohibiting me. Cost and the fact that I haven't really been drawn to any fast fashion shopping this year. I have tried a couple times. I did go to Zara one time, but I've lost my taste for it. I haven't been able to follow through with it, right? So those two things combined were keeping me from investing in pieces with that kind of flair. And I just thought about it and I was like, well, would it make me happy enough to be worth spending my whole budget on a piece like that to decide to just go ahead and do it? And I was like, yeah, my heart lit up at the thought. I was just like really excited about the idea of slowly over the course of months and months and months, and maybe even years and years, one piece at a time, adding really exciting quality, timeless, but super statement pieces to my wardrobe using large chunks of my budget, like fewer, nicer things, but not just nicer, but also more exciting, more statement. That was sort of how I came around to the idea. I was like thinking through whether my economic status really had to be holding me back from having a handful of really intensely amazing designer pieces, and realizing that my economic status would only hold me back from that if I was unwilling to devote most of my budget, if not all of my budget, to pieces like that. And that means not having budget left over for things like the drugstore lipsticks, the Sephora hauls, the Aritzia t-shirts, all of the little things that I liked to sort of collect like a magpie with little bits and pieces of my budget. I was going to have to throw all of those bits and pieces of my budget to this one nice thing if I wanted to have it. I started surfing around to try to verify my desire to do that by finding individual things that fit the bill. So I was looking for something around $200 that was special enough and me enough and checked all of my boxes enough to solidify in my mind the fact that it was a good idea. I wanted something on the shoulders. I really wanted like big dramatic shoulders, because that was one of the things that I loved so much about some of the pieces from Rent the Runway, the silhouette drama. I just really relished that, and I've been craving it. So I was really looking for something that had shoulder ruffles, and you should have seen me searching Poshmark. I was like,
shoulder ruffles designer shoulder ruffles, dramatic ruffles, big shoulder ruffle.
Like I was just searching for like big ruffled shoulders. So I guess you could say that the first box that needed to be checked was that it fulfilled my editorial Rent the Runway dreams, right? It had to be something that had that intense flair. And I feel like it's got that in silhouette. It's also got it in color. It's like a really, really incredibly dramatic color that I love as a pop of color for me. it's not something that I wear all the time. Like I wouldn't wear a t-shirt this color. There's nothing like that in my wardrobe. I wouldn't even buy underwear or socks in this color. But when you apply this color to something that's already statement, like a pair of patent leather shoes or a pair of high-waisted trousers or an intensely ruffled cotton eyelet blouse like this, then to me it becomes the kind of statement that I want to make. It reminds me of my NARS lipstick in Sheop, and how that's my only pink lipstick. It's like if I'm gonna wear pink, it's gonna be editorial pink. It is also something that can go from day to night. I feel like I would love to wear this to like a drag convention or a beauty convention. I've gone to some drag conventions and beauty conventions recently, and I've learned that a lot of my clothing is either relatively casual and drapey for day, or it's editorial and it's statement, but it's for nighttime. A lot of my evening wear has that statement quality, but my day wear tends to be just a little bit more like this woman is on her way to an art gallery. So it has the day to night. The other thing is because it has this high neckline, you can wear like a choker necklace or any kind of wide necklace over it, and it looks like it's part of the shirt. I really love that. I feel like it makes it quite versatile, and maybe the next time I wear this on camera, I'll wear it with my big choker jeweled necklace so you guys can see how it can really be dressed up, and you can kind of add more is more onto this. Another thing it has going for it is that it's loose fit. So this is good for a number of reasons. One, I felt comfortable ordering it online. It's a size 4 in Ulla Johnson, which supposedly correlates with a size small. I am technically a size small on top, but I often size up to a medium because I don't like things to be tight. I don't like things to be tight under my arm. I don't like clothes, especially if it's cotton like this and it doesn't have any stretch in it. I just don't like to feel constrained by my clothing. So I was a little bit hesitant because it was only available in the one size, but the fact that it's so loose and boxy and it's got these big puffy sleeves made me feel like it's probably extremely size versatile, and that proved to be true. I also know that this is a fit that I'll feel physically comfortable wearing no matter what. If I gain a little weight, if I lose a little weight, if I'm feeling bloated that day, if I just don't want to be showy, which a lot of times I just don't. I don't feel like that. I'm kind of over it. I'm in my mid-30s. Like I'm not always feeling like showing quite a lot of skin in that way, bodycon. If I want to make a splash, but I want to do it in a way that's not all about that body, this is perfect because it's dramatic and sassy and in its own way very sensual, but without being bodycon. It makes it a more reliable long-term investment because, you know, if my body changes as I get older, as I get much, much older, I'll still be able to wear this. I imagine that when I'm 60 or 70 years old, I'll still be able to wear this because of the cut and the fit and the styling. It's not going to be something that I age out of. And that has as much to do with, again, like the fit, the boxiness, the looseness, the drapiness, as it does with the styling itself. I literally, when I chose this, I was thinking like, I'll be wearing this when I'm 70. And I fully plan on doing that. And on top of that, just as I was saying with the loose weave theory sweater, it does have that extremely comfortable and versatile boxy shape, but it's sheer, right? It's like, it's eyelet. So I don't know how well you guys could see this on camera because I think that things tend to get a little bit flattened and more two-dimensional with the lights and everything. But when I'm wearing this, if I just wear a bra under it, it's kind of sexy. Like you can see it. You can like see the outline of the bra in the front and in the back. And I could wear this with like high-waisted slim pants and like a beautiful lacy bra. And it would be kind of sexy. Like it would be a sexy statement without being bodycon. And it would be something that I could wear that would feel sexy even if I wasn't feeling super amazing about my body that day. So that makes it even more versatile because I'm not having to choose between that comfort and that sort of like statement making, body forward styling. There's that option still with this. But of course I could layer it over top of a cami if I didn't want there to be any of that kind of lingerie silhouette. So it can go either way. And this leads me to my last, and in some ways most important, not most important quality, but this is like the quality that really, really convinced me. This is washable at home. in spite of being unbelievably beautifully and sort of complicatedly sewn, like it has all of these seams and layers, and it is engineered. This is what it is. It's structurally engineered to have like a dramatic silhouette. But because it's done so well and with such a versatile, breathable, natural fiber, you can wash it in water on gentle cycle in your washing machine and lay it flat to dry or hang it to dry, and it will stay the same. It'll pop back to its natural state. If it ever does get dirty, if I spill something on it, as long as it's not staining, or if I sweat into it, if I like wear it all day and all evening at a convention and then go to a party and I sweat into it, I can just wash it myself. And so that was like the final box that it checked for me. It's hard to find incredibly editorial clothing that washes well at home. Not all designer garments are designed to be worn, washed, worn, washed, worn, washed. They're designed for someone really rich to wear it one time. This is not that. This to me is like, it is in all of the right ways and in the best way pedestrian, because it's this beautiful, sturdy cotton fabric. I think that's it. I hope that I've made myself clear. I hope that this has been like interesting to watch and fruitful and maybe even useful. I think that I can possibly sum it up best by saying, like, if this had been polyester, I would not have purchased it, not in a million years. If this had been a different color, even if it had been a color that I really like to wear, like black or white, I wouldn't have purchased it, because I feel like for the amount of money, I was going for something. I was like shooting for the moon. I was going for something with all the drama. So if it were chartreuse, maybe I would have bought it, right? But if it were white or cream colored or black, I don't think I would have been willing to spend the amount of money. I was buying all of its qualities, its color, its dramatic silhouette, the fact that it's washable at home, the fact that it was secondhand, the fact that it's something that I'll be able to wear, I hope, for the rest of my life. I was buying all of those qualities. And if any one of those qualities had been different, if it had been dry clean only, I might not have bought it. If it hadn't had these shoulder ruffles, I wouldn't have bought it. I might not even have bought it if it had been lined. Like if it hadn't been sheer like this and it hadn't had the versatility to be worn as part of kind of a sexy outfit, as well as the boxiness to be worn when I'm not feeling super body confident. If it hadn't had that versatility, I might not have bought it. So I really, really did think. I thought long and hard about myself. Sometimes we talk about the fantasy self when it comes to makeup and clothes as being someone that you shouldn't honor. It's like, oh no, that eyeshadow is for my fantasy self, but I know myself and I never wear stuff like that. Or I could totally see someone saying that about this blouse. Like, the fantasy of wearing it is nice. Like, it's nice to think about being someone who would wear a thing like that, but I know that it would just sit in my closet because I wouldn't be brave enough to wear it. I think that if you truly wouldn't ever wear it, like if what you're talking about is your fantasy self being like an extremely abstract idea of like a person that you know that you're not and you don't even want to be in real life. And so what that means is if you got the garment or if you got the glitter or whatever, it would just sit there and you would have only bought it because you like the idea of it, then that's a valid use of the phrase, oh, that's something that my fantasy self would like, but I shouldn't buy it, or I shouldn't try to acquire it. But sometimes I think that fantasizing can be useful for growth, for stretching your wings as somebody who enjoys style. That's kind of how I employed my experience of Rent the Runway and thinking about what I want. Like having this is a fantasy for me. Wearing this is something that my fantasy self would do, but it's the other kind of fantasy self. It's the fantasy self that's like something that I'm envisioning to then manifest. But I'm doing it at the cost of something that I do for comfort, which is buying a bunch of little easier to wear things. If my fantasy self is someone who buys one incredibly dramatic thing and then wears it, and my actual self is someone who buys a bunch of little drugstore lipsticks and sale t-shirts throughout the month as a way of self-soothing, then it's not bad that for this month I forced my way, like elbowed my way into my fantasy. It's just that I did it with my eyes open. I knew what I was giving up. I knew what I was having to leave behind to buy this. And I knew that if the experiment didn't go well, and I regretted the fact that I couldn't buy anything for the whole rest of the month, because that's the other thing. I purchased this at the very beginning of the month. And I considered buying the Natasha Denona Gold palette, but I decided against it. Apart from that, I haven't even considered buying anything. I haven't shopped. I felt more this month like it was still my no-buy year than I have during any other month. Because it was just like, why? And I didn't even think that much about what I might buy once my budget renewed. I just sort of turned off the tap and I was like, it's over. We got this and now it's over. If I hadn't liked that, if I had realized after conducting this experiment that this didn't make me happy enough to be worth that, then it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I could have gone back to buying more smaller things next month. But for me, the experiment really did work. I've loved it. I've loved this month. This is by far my favorite budgeting month, and this is by far my favorite purchase of the year. All right, I feel like this video was an organizational mess. I feel like I just blabbered on about how much I love my Ulla Johnson blouse. I feel like the key points were in there though, all of the little specific aspects of it that all added up to make it worth it. And I then waxed poetic a little bit about what it was like to spend all of my money. Those were the things I meant to do. If I missed anything, if you have questions about this blouse or about the experience of spending almost all of my budget on one thing, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll try to make sure to get to them. A huge thank you again to Home Chef for sponsoring the beginning portion of this video. If you're interested in fresh and easy, I'll leave the link down below and you can click through. And of course, my discount codes, you can try Home Chef at $20 off your first 4 boxes if you think it's something that would fit into your lifestyle and into your food budget. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.